Land exists. He did everything from operations. Now he's doing mostly protein book purchasing. Anything else on that?
Yep, just in, it's been a heck of a journey. I'm not Taylor, just to be clear. I had a couple of folks come up and say, oh, you're Taylor. I'm not nearly as handsome as Taylor, but I will say I think I can grow a stronger beard.
Yeah. Anyway, so Taylor and I, I'll just give you a brief history on Epic. So Taylor and I started Epic about 3-4 years ago. It actually started when Taylor and I were vegans of all things. So we were vegan for a lot of reasons. We were competing in a lot of athletic endeavors. So I was training for the Ironman World Championship race, and the dogma at the time was that to be a great athlete, you needed to eat super clean. And so super clean to us was like Whole Foods, and the animal proteins that were on the market at the time were mostly pretty much CAFO feedlot type operation type stuff. And we were in college and we couldn't afford even grass-fed meats, and we didn't have that time or energy to go to our farmers markets, which is where all the nice meats were sold. And so we were like, great, we'll just be vegetarian, no big deal. We're going to perform well with a vegetarian diet. I started having some weird stomach issues, weird inflammatory issues, and I was like, well, it must be because my diet's not clean enough. And so we went and we're like, okay, well, we're going to shift, we're going to go even more extreme, we're going to be vegans. And so we were vegans, and then it was the symptoms were exacerbated, and so we were like, okay, well, then we're not eating clean enough, so we're going to be raw vegans. And so we just kept going more and more and more and more. As you can imagine, it didn't end up very well. I was told I needed a total knee replacement. I was put on rheumatoid arthritis medication, all these really extreme measures. And so I didn't want a knee replacement. I didn't want to take arthritis medication. And so I went to a holistic health practitioner. And he suggested that I read this book called Eat Right for Your Blood Type. And it's a book basically saying that your blood type corresponds to it. Is anybody familiar? Okay, so I don't need a picture part. But ultimately, the types of food that you eat have a direct relationship with the blood type that you have. And I'm an O. And so I was doing the opposite of everything that I was supposed to be doing. So I was eating raw vegetables, and it said to cook your vegetables, and it said that I should be consuming high-quality grass-fed animal proteins, which I was not doing at all. And that I should stop eating grains, which that's all I was doing. So, literally, one day we read the book, and we went and ran to the blood bank and got our blood tested, and then found out I was no, and we were like, all right, well, tomorrow we're going to boil a steak, because we didn't know what to do. So, it was super gross. Don't do that. But we pushed through, and we were like, I guess we're going to eat boiled steak for the rest of our lives. And for 3 days, 4 days, we worked our way up to eating hamburgers and actually delicious meat. And we couldn't go back. And all my symptoms literally disappeared within 3 weeks. And I was able to get back on my bike and train and be the athlete that I wanted to be. And so during this time, we were also, we were like, okay, well, now that we're awesome athletes, we need to have these high-quality animal protein products available when we're on our bikes or on a mountaintop. And considering we couldn't even get high-quality animal protein at the grocery store at the time, you can see how that would have been a big problem to conveniently pack it up and put it in your pocket. So we came up with the idea of the meat bar. At the time, everybody thought it was the worst idea ever, except Kirk. Kirk was like, yeah, let's do this. So that's how Epic was born. So we came out with basically whole food, animal-based protein products. And we sourced from solely grass-fed animal proteins at the time. And so the basic pillars of Epic were that we wanted consumers to have better health. We wanted the human to be healthy, right? And we knew that you couldn't have a healthy human without a healthy animal. And we were going really super strong on human health and animal health. And there was this missing component to it all. It was a very reductionist way of thinking about it. And then once we started thinking holistically, we recognized that there was this missing element of the life. And that's where the Savory lying, aside from that. But there's very little transparency into what's behind that in terms of like, who are these ranchers? What are they actually doing with the land? Is there like a higher purpose than just like the actual food for the animals itself? And that's where this regenerative animal protein is coming into play for us and how important it is for our brand and our mission. And so, yeah, we've teamed up with the Savory Institute and really pushing for our ranchers to start managing holistically. And it puts a lot of meaning behind the brand as, I think Trey was talking about earlier, but millennials are like super on board with like buying brands with a purpose. And if we can provide that connection between rancher and consumer, then obviously it's a really great place for us to be in because we have all these fabulous people behind us that we can help support in the process. So Kurt, do you want to talk a little bit about our protein supply?
Yeah, I guess first, can I get a show of hands on the vegans, vegetarians? Yeah.
Ex-vegans.
We're off to a strong start here. We're in front of the right audience. So as Katie mentioned, I've been with Epic since we started, and it's been quite a journey from the beginning when you have people telling you that you're absolutely nuts for putting these high-quality meats into a package, and you're going to sell this meat bar. And not only are you going to do that, but you're going to put the animal on the front. You're out of your mind. No one wants to associate an animal had to die for that piece of meat to get in there. Well, we said, well, that's exactly what we want people to be thinking about. Is that every bar, every package that we make, there's a whole supply chain that's very critical that it takes to get there. We want that to resonate with consumers versus it hiding behind some low-quality piece of meat, behind some goofy-looking package. So anyway, that always resonates really strong with me from the beginning. Just remembering kind of how we started and how difficult it was making that impact to people to where we are now. And the big thing that I guess I want to emphasize to you guys is that we're on the other end of the spectrum. We're not the ranchers. We're not the producers. We're not the ones out there having to understand all the complications of your grass and your soil and your environment and everything like that. But I can tell you what we are. Is we're the marketing, we're the brand on the other end that's listening to the consumer that's saying, hey, here's what we want. We're not making this stuff up. We're not going back to ranchers and saying, hey, you need to ranch this way, or you should do it this way, or if you do it this way, we'll buy it from you. We're listening to what consumers are saying. This is what we want. We're tired of the same old thing. We're tired of buying feedlot animals. It's just not going to work anymore. That system is broken, and of course, it's taken time for that to change, and it's happening quicker and faster every day. But what we're doing is listening to those consumers, and then we're going back to you guys and with partners like Savory going, holy crap, like we are onto something. I mean, we can market it, we can pull it through if folks do it the right way. Consumers are really asking for this stuff. And so, the big thing I guess that I want to emphasize is that it's really exciting to come to these events and hear folks like yourself talk and get questions. People will ask me, well, what are all the different requirements that you guys, to source or for me to sell at Epic or this, that, and the other. The main things, our big focus is we would love for every single supplier to be a regenerative or holistic managed supplier. The reality of it is we're not perfect. Not every single one is, but we're damn sure making big strides to make sure that everything that we do is. And so the way we do that is we have our own internal sort of guidelines of how we rank and engage and are transparent with consumers about our suppliers, and that ranges. A lot of it does have to do with holistic land management, but it has to do with a lot of other things. Animal welfare, how the people are treated, how that's enriching that rural or that local economy. A lot of folks can be doing a lot of things really right, meaning they can have the best farming and ranching practices on paper, but maybe the employees that work there are just, it's a terrible lifestyle, right? That's not going to work for us. We're trying to take a step back and look at everything holistically. So when you guys are looking holistically, you're thinking about the ranch, we're trying to take an even bigger step back and look, how does where we source products from have a bigger impact on the people, the environment, and then the health of consumers ultimately. So I think, again, the big part that I want to make sure you folks understand is that what you're doing, there's certainly a market for it. People are excited, and we just want to be an avenue in which to sort of, I guess, you guys are raising animals, and you need a place to go with that need, right? So over time, we've developed and we've tried to make and create products listening to both consumers and to ranchers, saying, hey, at the end of the year, at the end of the month, I'm left with all these things in my freezer, whatever it is, on the same end on the consumer side. Hey, I would really love to see this type of product. I can't find anything on the marketplace that fits what I'm looking for. We try to mesh those two worlds together and create something that's of value in the marketplace.
And with that being said, one of our big initiatives is what we're calling like our whole animal project. So utilizing more of the animal than just like the prime cuts for jerky. And so I think maybe we have some products over there that are mostly muscle meat, but we also have utilize bones and animal fat, organ meats, muscle meats, trim, etc. Because we do recognize and listen to ranchers that it is very difficult for us to convince somebody to change their ranching practices if we're only going to be buying 5% of their animal, right? And so having those conversations and being able to innovate around them is a really big focus for us, and I think it's something that's helpful for ranchers as well. Something that Trey touched on earlier, but I feel like is one of the most exciting things about what Savory is doing right now is the Land to Market program. And so for us, it's super important because the Land to Market program is going to allow us to put like a seal, like the USDA organic seal or gluten-free seal, things that consumers really search for on your back. It's going to allow us to put a seal, hopefully, on the product to say this animal protein had a positive impact on the land. And that's so huge. And there's empirical data to support it. I mean, it's incredible, and it's totally game-changing, and it's so new and revolutionary for the natural foods and conventional industries. So if you guys are interested in that program, I would really encourage you to look into it, because it's going to be, I'm going to guess, it's going to be the next big thing, just like meat growth.
And I think she added something there, I think, which is important. A lot of folks sometimes think, oh, well, where do you guys sell your products, or where, this is still very small, and I'll tell you, when we started, it was very much the natural grocery outlets. And now, I'm happy to report, it still blows my mind that we're getting these high-quality proteins that are coming from ranchers like yourself in 7-Eleven, in stores that range from convenience stores all the way to the smaller mom-and-pop kind of niche natural grocery food stores. So what does that tell me? That means that there's a wide variety of folks that are asking for this stuff and buying it. It's not just this really niche, natural grocery food farmers market buyer that's looking for this. I mean, there's a wide spectrum of folks. So
and not just in the consumer world, and just to set things into perspective. I forgot to mention this as a part of our story. About a year ago, General Mills purchased our company. And so we're still running it and operating it out of Austin, but they own it now. And one of the things that drew them to Epic the most was this regenerative agriculture component, and the influence that the Savory Institute has had on their mission, their overall, they're like a $14 billion company, but the definitions that they're starting to put into some of their initiatives for the next couple of years, I mean, it all revolves around regenerative agriculture. It's incredible. I mean, it's truly a dream come true in a sense. I mean, that was the whole purpose of the partnership, was to influence the bigger machine into moving forward, because big is really good when it's doing really good. And it's really bad when they're doing bad things. And so to help push them in the right direction, and to even have
you would never know. Like Katie said, it's still the same folks doing the same thing. But now we've got a lot of additional resources to help us drive our mission and impact. It's light years faster, quicker, and bigger than what we were doing. And as far as like our sourcing philosophy and what's important to us and the standards, folks thought when that happened, oh boy, it's going to go downhill. Look out. If anything, our standards have only gone up since then. We're only continuing to improve and build on that. And it's pretty damn amazing to have a huge company like the General Mills looking at Taylor and Katie going, hey, we need direction here as to how do we steer this regenerative agriculture mission to our larger organization. And so there's some pretty substantial goals that are out there as far as carbon sequestration and converting acres to grasslands and these really, really big initiatives that are out there which supports everything that we're doing, and it makes it all worth it at the end of the day. Because sometimes you have to sit back and go, well, geez, am I really making a difference? Am I really changing anything at all? Or am I just doing all this to make myself feel better? So what we're doing is really putting some measurable goals in place so that in 3 years, in 5 years, in 10 years, when folks are trying to push holes into what we've been doing, we can say, yeah, you're damn right, we made a difference, and this is what we've been doing over the last 3, 5, 10 years that have made an impact in a positive way on the land, on the environment, people, so.
Can you explain how you work with the producers like that?
Yeah.
How you work with us as partners?
Yep, so I get that question a lot, and I'll tell folks, I engage with folks all the way from the smallest farmer, rancher, all the way up to some of the largest ones, because the way that I look at it, as long as we can get them on board with our philosophy and ranching practices, how do we get there, small or large? Let's do this. Let's jump off the cliff together here. But essentially, it depends, right? So sometimes we work directly with a rancher, and in that sense, we don't buy live animals. We don't buy a whole hanging carcass. We buy boxed, frozen, ready-to-use meat. We buy bones, we buy fat, we buy organ meat. We're not ranchers, so we don't try to interject ourselves in between the rancher and a processor or some intermediary in between there, right? They've usually got that relationship, so we let them maintain that relationship. However, what I will say, and I was having this conversation earlier with someone, you guys can do everything right, you can raise these animals perfectly, and then it could all get screwed up the last day or two of their lives. Whenever they get loaded onto a trailer, they get shipped half a day somewhere, then they get offloaded, and those people don't care. They don't give a darn about the way you've been raising and taking care of these animals, and they're stressed out, they're yelled at, they're beaten, banged on, and the whole deal. And it's just a terrible way to taking care of these animals, and it goes out that way. So what we do is we do require that all the way through the processing piece, even though we're not necessarily dictating anything with the processor. We require certain audits that would adhere to animal welfare standards, so that we make sure that that piece is not overlooked, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. So that's one way. So we could buy directly from you if you said, hey, we would love to work with you. The other way, lots of times, it takes a village of ranchers maybe to pool their resources into a co-op, so to speak, or a hub, so to speak, so that they have enough animals to supply us and enough meat to supply us. And collectively, those ranchers work together, and we may buy from that co-op or that hub. And then what at the end of the day, we want to make sure, and I know you guys were talking about it earlier, was profitability. We want to make sure that what we're buying it cycles all the way back to the boots on the ground, the rancher that's out there raising the animals and taking care of it, right? So we ask and require a lot of transparency, both on all the animal raising practices, all the way through some cost transparency, so that we can make sure that if we are buying somewhere in the intermediary that ultimately the folks who are raising the animals are getting rewarded for what they're doing. They're doing
Is there a certain volume that you require?
I would not necessarily. If you have something in mind, I'll be around. You can come up to me and talk to me. But I mean, now it's crazy. When we first started, it's pretty funny. I was having to talk people, having to convince them to sell me meat. And when I was trying to convince them to sell me like a couple 100 pounds, right? Like, I mean, I was just, come on, please, sell me 200 pounds. Now, what do you mean you can't sell me less than a pallet's worth? Like, a pallet's worth is like a year's worth of stuff right now. I can't buy this much. But yeah, I mean, things have obviously, we've grown and volumes have increased quite significantly. And so there's efficiencies in freight and all those types of things, but again, I don't necessarily have a minimum volume requirement. At the end of the day, we try to partner with folks that are like-minded and aligned with our mission and philosophy. And however we get there, as long as it's beneficial for both parties, as long as you're happy and it works and it's a great deal for you, and we're likewise, it works for us. Honestly, it doesn't matter to me if it's a half a pallet of stuff or you're telling me you got truckloads of it. We'd like to work and figure those things out. So.
Kurt, do you foresee, as you guys are growing so quickly and other products on the market, a sourcing shortage?
We've absolutely run into that. Not necessarily with beef, but some of the other ruminant animals that we source. I think we have like our bison bar here, which is an extremely popular product, and it's crazy, but a lot of people don't realize, and we were naive enough when we started to think that all bison were grass-fed. Why wouldn't they be, right? Who the hell puts a bison in a feed yard? They do.
A lot of people.
They do. It happens, and we were just blown away once we started growing to the scale of realizing, oh my God, there's not enough grass-fed bison. What the hell? What world are we living in where this is a problem? You know, it's a huge problem, and so that's an example of a supply constraint where, with the help, thankfully, of General Mills, we're starting to shift that industry a bit as well by supporting and trying to set up sort of longer-term thinking agreements where we're saying, hey, look, if you raise them this way, if you just keep them on grass and forage-based diets and let them do what they were intended to do thousands of years ago, back before we damn near killed them all, we were buying from them. And so there are some limitations when it comes to sourcing and supply, but mostly it's things like that, or some of our other more niche proteins that have some seasonality in them, and so that's always kind of hard to predict. I don't know how many fish I don't know how many salmon they're going to catch in Bristol Bay, Alaska this season. Neither did half the fishermen there either. And so it's like, then also how many are we going to need to make and sell? And so sometimes you run into those types of things, but again, we're a rapid growth company. We're super agile and quick to notice and pick up when markets and shifts and things change, that we try to adapt and act quickly and head those things off. But it can happen. I don't foresee any huge ones, and especially it's whenever I again go to things like this, and I know that there's a network of folks that are building practices and philosophies around raising practices that we agree with. It's reassuring that, hey, we're not gonna run into any sort of crazy shortage.
Do y'all now, this may be for Don or Chad too, either now or in the future foresee a relationship with GLA or the hub?
Yeah, that's absolutely something that we'd love to be a part of, and we've had conversations, and I think that is certainly something that is on the horizon. So. We started with 3 to 4. We started with 4 animal species, and now it's close to over a dozen. Just wanted to say thanks for having us, and